Good evening, everybody. Welcome to season 4, episode 12 of the Argo Bounce Podcast show with co hosts Nick Small and Chris Pomay, a weekly independent talk show devoted to the CFL's 19-time Grey Cup champion, your Toronto Argonauts. I hope everyone's doing well on this Saturday, September 20th, 2025. It's been a busy time for me and my co host Nick Small, but we're happy to be back here tonight. And unfortunately, we have to talk about a disappointing, um, really stings like a B loss. The Argos came off a 21-19 loss last night to the Montreal Alouettes. The good news is the Argos defense had 3 sacks and 3 interceptions, and they played much better, in my opinion. They only allowed 21 points, but unfortunately, the offense couldn't really get going until the fourth quarter on that touchdown drive by Jarrett Daggy to Jake Herslow. Jake Herslow is becoming one of my favorite Argonauts. He's becoming a terrific receiver. Unfortunately, at the end of the game, Jarrett, when the Argos were driving for possibly a field goal attempt by Liam, he threw an interception, and Wesley Sutton made a good play on the play. And the Argos now dropped to 5-9, and the Alouettes are 7-8, and the Alouettes have won all 3 games, they believe, against the Argos this year. So I really think, Nick, second place is out of the question, and the Argos now, I think, are going to have to win all 4 games to try to get a crossover. Nick, your thoughts, bud?
Hey, Chris. Yeah, it's definitely a challenging time, a tough loss for Argos fans this week. It's a game that I kind of like. By still there? Good. Okay.
Yes.
A game that we
Yes.
thought they'd have been up by more in. Unfortunately, they were not. And then just some struggles getting back into it in the second half. A couple of very unfortunate opportunities. We can argue whether it was over play calling or officiating. I don't think it was, but it was definitely disappointing. I will say one thing, though, one thing that made it really easy for me to kind of get over it quickly. I spent the day at Wonderland with my brother, kind of there. So it was fun for me and my brother. We got to kind of take our minds off things, and it was just a fun day overall. So I had to brag about that today.
They announced the attendance last night at 13,845, but a number of us in the media press box thought maybe 8,500 to 9,000 fans. So I thought it was a disappointing crowd for a Friday night, but it was an entertaining second half, and unfortunately, the team fell short. And just 1 or 2 plays would have made the difference. And the Argos now, they have 4 games left, and they got a tough game next week. Next Saturday at BC at 10 o'clock. And BC absolutely crushed Calgary last night, 52-23 to go 7-7. Did you see that happening, Nick, with BC going into Calgary and crushing them like that?
Well, I picked Calgary to win, and I think, like a lot of people, I thought Vernon Adams Jr. was going to play with a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder. We kind of saw the last 2 games they played against Edmonton. Calgary wasn't quite what we expected from them, and they seemed a little flat. And for BC, who's also lost games that they probably should have won, or at least managed a little bit better, to go out and to just lay down a 50 on Calgary was pretty surprising. I certainly did not expect it. Of course, anybody who's back in the Lions this year will say they saw it. They think that Nathan Rourke's the hottest QB in the league, but let's not put the cart before the horse right now. We'll see how things shape up, because the Argonauts, of course, are the next ones to take on the Lions in BC Place, a place where they won the last Grey Cup, and the place where they played the BC Lions rather well the last time they went head to head. So I don't want to say anything said and done at this point in the year. There's still lots of things that could happen.
And Winnipeg got a big win today on the road, 26-18 over Ottawa. I think Ottawa is now 4-11. Ottawa, I don't think is going to make the playoffs. I'm going to be honest, and this is just my opinion. Just my opinion. I think there's going to be some major changes with the Ottawa Red Blacks after this season, because I think they were expected to be I think, and the media expectations were they were supposed to compete for a playoff spot this year, and they have fallen short of that. And credit Winnipeg, they're back to 500 at 7-7, and they're now tied with BC at 7-7 as well.
How with they hold Chris Trevler to less than 40 yards passing through most of that game, and then they somehow still come away with a loss. That certainly does not look good on the coaching. As bad as the Argonauts offense looked bad, at least you can justify it with a third string quarterback and all kind of the scenarios they were dealing with. And I mean, they were still like, Day had 200 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. McLeod Bethel Thompson had 228, 2 touchdowns, 3 receptions. So McLeod wasn't really that much better by the end of it. And at halftime, like neither of them really had much going. But for that Winnipeg Ottawa game, it was just really ugly, and I think it's pretty disappointing if you're a Red Blacks fan. Drew Brown had 406 yards passing to Chris Trevler's 54, and they still lost, which is it's I think it's just at this level in this era of football, it's different if we're talking like 1960s where teams could win throwing the ball for 0 yards. It's just unacceptable in this day and age that you have a quarterback throwing for 400 yards at Drew Brown and you lose to a quarterback who throws for less than 50. That just cannot happen in the CFL.
Ken wanted to correct me. Ken comes on to correct me to say they're 4-10. Well, I predict they're going to be 4-11. The way Ottawa's playing right now, Ken, I don't think I honestly don't know if Ottawa's going to win another football game this year. The way they're playing.
We'll have to wait a week because they have the bye, but then they're up against Saskatchewan. So
they're going to be 4-11. They're going to be 4-11. And if they're not, I'll come on here and I will apologize to the Ottawa Red Blacks and their fan base if I'm wrong. But Saskatchewan had their wake-up call too. So, you know what? It doesn't matter what your record in this league. Any team in this league can be beaten on any given day. And I'll tell you this, Montreal, in my opinion, if they get competent quarterback play out of McLeod Bethel Thompson, or if the other guy Davis comes back, they have a very good offense. I like the receivers. I'm not sure about the running game, but Montreal, if they get any kind of quarterback play at all, along with that defense, I think they can be a threat to Hamilton in the East going into the playoffs. And Ken Mulhall, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. Crossover our reality. Absolutely, Ken, but the Argos have to win. I think they have to win out. I really feel, and even Ryan Dinwiddie said last night in the post-game conference, we're in a bit of a, they've digged themselves into a bit of a hole, but he feels that they've got to win their last 4 games to get it into a crossover. But there will be no home games at BMO Field this year for the playoffs, in my opinion, unless some miracle happens.
Yeah, losing those 3 games to Montreal was definitely a killer. The first game, I was there in Montreal. It was kind of Montreal's from the beginning. Like they were pretty much in control and they beat Toronto soundly. The latter 2, though, and especially this one last night, was a pretty brutal loss, a difficult loss to take. Both games, the last 2, could definitely have been won by Toronto. We're going to say hello to Mr. Rick Boccaccio at Hamilton Sports Central. Say hello to Richard Chung beside you for me as well. We're happy to have you here listening to us live from the Hamilton-Edmonton game. I had to turn off on my TV here, unfortunately, because my Wi-Fi signal was getting a little bad. That's why you might not see me here on the broadcast if you are tuning in by video. That's why you've only got my audio right now.
And by the way, Nick, I was in the media press box yesterday, so I got to meet some of the guys from the TSN Overdrive crew. And Jeff O'Neill, the last time I met him was 1994 when he played for the Guelph Storm. And him and Jamie Storr, who played in the NHL at the time, was with Owen Sound. They signed a hockey ticket for me as well. So I said to Jeff, we're going to have to meet up every 30 years. And Jamie McClellan was one of the first guys on my show 5 years ago. Jamie remembered me, so it was good to talk to him. And I did get to speak to Luke Wilson as well. And Yeah, I said, Luke, you know what? You're good for the league. Maybe not everyone's going to agree with you, but eh, I said just keep being yourself. And it was good to see them, and it was nice to see TSN Sports Center do some coverage from BMO Field. Nick, before you went into the stadium, did you get to watch any of it? And they had Keith Pelly on too, the Argos president, to speak
You
about their
you
deal
should
with the
have
Bills.
you should have taken the opportunity to call Luke Wilson the king of the numpties. That would have been funny. To top off with the Hayes is a fraud conversations that go on there in their overdrive games. Yeah, I mean the one that I did manage to catch a bit on was when we were waiting to get in the stadium. I did tune in briefly, and I happened to recognize just right on who they were talking to was Keith Pelly, of course, the president and CEO of MLSC at the moment. And yeah, if you get an opportunity, if you're a listener to our show and you haven't already, take a moment to look at TSN 1050 overdrives. You can find it on YouTube. You can probably find it on the TSN channel as well. But listen to their brief little interview that they did with Keith Pelly during the show, and he talks a little bit about during the Keith Pelly interview, he talks about everything that's kind of went on with the decision to make the Bills partnership. Certainly, I think, I mean, he he talks a lot about it, the challenges that the Argonauts face. I think he puts it in a rather negative light in that, like saying how he since 2004 when he last left the Argos, nothing's changed. I'm not entirely sure about that, and I'm skeptical because I think a lot of people within the fan base have done a lot to try to draw attendance to get more fans in, and we do see that in the attendance numbers over the last 3 or 4 years, especially since COVID. But unfortunately, I think he does have a point that's not enough, and like a case in point that he makes a really good example in it. And we will have to wait and see though. Once kind of things once we see it happen in the final game against Hamilton. But the giveaways is something he's looking at, the attendance numbers. And right now, Keith Pelly's claiming the numbers are going to be higher for this game than they might have been for any game this season. And if the way people acted over the John Candy t-shirts, which in my opinion wasn't even that big a giveaway, and it really went in nostalgia over who John Candy was, more for older Argo fans than it was for younger ones. Think people my age, 28 and younger, who never even got a chance to know who he was or meet John Candy. Like, you can say as much as that we see like videos of Uncle Buck or whatever, um, uh, post-mortem, but like for us, we never got to see what the John Candy years were in 91. So for people my age and younger, like that was already still a big giveaway with what it was in the Edmonton game. Imagine what it could be with this Bills giveaway for people, for a young generation of fans who actually know what Josh Allen is doing and what the potential the Bills have for potentially being a Super Bowl team. I'm not saying whether or not they're going to do it. I'm just saying as a neutral fan who watches the NFL, like there are a lot of Bills fans in Toronto, even amongst the fans who are fans of
I
other teams.
disagree. I actually disagree with you because they had 5 years of Bills games in Toronto, and when they played at the Rogers Center, half the crowd was going against the Bills. So there are Bills fans in Toronto, yes, Nick, but I don't think it's a Bills city. I think Toronto is a neutral NFL city, just like Los Angeles is, in my opinion. So we'll see. But now for the Tiger Cats game, I know it's Bills Day, but I heard something about maybe a Doug Flutie giveaway, but I don't know if that was just speculation or
Well,
a
I think
rumor.
that's what I think the Bills team giveaway is. Like it's a Doug Flutie because he played for both the Bills and the Argos. It's a Doug Flutie Bills
Okay.
related giveaway. So I think that's what they're trying to leverage in with this Bills Argos partnership. And if you're going to use anyone, it makes sense that you're going to use the most famous Bills and Argonaut and Stampeder, if you want to add that in, player to do the marketing for that kind of inaugural game.
The thing is, if the Argos aren't even going to be in the playoff picture, which I hope they will be, that can affect the attendance too. So hopefully the weather will be good, but hopefully the team will need that game to get into the playoffs. And
Well,
unfortunately, go ahead, Nick.
well, I think it is going to because Well, even whether or not it does, I think it's going to have a positive impact on attendance because what we've seen the last couple of years when they've there was the game in 2022 they played a nothing game against Edmonton when they had already clinched the playoffs, and I don't think 8,000 people showed up because nobody wanted to see Antonio Pipkin start for the Toronto Argonauts. So it was pretty abysmal for attendance. So if they're in the hunt and there's something on the line for it, I think it could have a very positive impact. And contrast to that, like maybe that was 2021, but the year afterwards was Chad Kelly's first game as a starter in, again, a nothing game that didn't affect the standings. But that game had a higher attendance than all the other games that the Argonauts had. And a lot of that had to do with the whole Chad Kelly's, Jim Kelly's nephew. They're Bills fans. Bills are going to go and watch the game. And it did have a positive impact on attendance. So I think that's something we could very well see with this Hamilton game. And if it does end up becoming a result of a playoff picture kind of game and a chance to upset Hamilton to shake things up a bit, especially the fact that we know it's probably not going to be packed with Hamilton fans coming across the QEW because the GO train is closed. That is going to be that's going to be a major factor.
Yep. Huge factor. And the second factor is unknown, as always, is the weather. That's the next factor. And the third factor is the Toronto Blue Jays might be celebrating a playoff or division title at home on the 4th as well. I'm going to be honest, Nick. I'm hoping they can get 15,000 for that game on the Saturday at 3 o'clock. So fingers crossed. They announced attendance last night at 13,845 in the media press box. But to me, it looked like around 9,000, 9,500 fans. So I'm not sure if they count the people that are actually in the building or they just do it on ticket sales.
Toronto has typically been one to do it by gate-driven attendance, not by pre-sales. But of course, I don't know 100%. I can say in the concourse, it definitely felt a lot less busy than it has been in games earlier this week. But yeah, with in terms of what this game could be, I mean, it's difficult to really see how it's going to play out. But I think there is some potential there that it's still going to get to that, at least that 15,000 mark, if we're using that as kind of the placeholder. If they can get to that number in this game against Hamilton and most significantly not have to rely on fans coming across the QEW from Hamilton, that could be pretty significant. And if you're going on what Keith Pelly's saying, and I don't know whether it's true or not. Of course, I don't have numbers of statistics, but he claims that they've already sold more tickets to this game than they have at any other game this season. So it could be pretty important and pretty significant if they do. But that then puts pressure on the team to perform, because every time we've had a big game and we've had huge record-breaking attendance, the team has laid the biggest, fattest goose egg on the planet.
Yep. Well said, Nick. And you said the word Hamilton. Right now at halftime, Hamilton 20, Edmonton 17 in a back-and-forth game. Who do you see coming out of that game tonight in Hamilton?
I know it might not necessarily be good for the crossover, but I kind of hope Edmonton beats Hamilton. But yeah, maybe it wouldn't be best from that bigger picture, but I just don't like seeing Hamilton win and us losing in the same week. But I am 0 for 3 in my picks this week, so I'm clearly not one to follow on the picks this season.
Hey, Nick, since you mentioned the word Hamilton, I did a post-game media interview with a former Hamilton Tiger Cats receiver. He's one of my favorite players on the team. I think he's one of their unsung heroes, and he can do so many things for this team, and he's also brings veteran presence to the Argonauts. David Unger, and we're going to play this clip interview I did with him last night at BMO Field in the Argos locker room. Just 1 second, and we'll play the interview I did with David Unger, former Hamilton Tiger Cat. Okay. Chris Pomay, live from inside the Toronto Argonauts locker room at BMO Field after tonight's 21-19 heartbreaking loss to the Montreal Alouettes. And I have Toronto Argonauts wide receiver David Unger here. David, just thoughts on the game tonight, and how much does this loss sting?
Yeah, this one stings quite a bit. We all feel like we had the chances to win this game, and it can just be added to the list of games that we let slip through our fingers. So This one definitely stings for sure.
You got 4 games left, and you guys are still in it. Now, tonight's game against Montreal, you guys kind of got off to a slow start, but in the second half, that touchdown drive, you guys seem to be at a quicker tempo. Do you kind of prefer that kind of offense?
I wouldn't say I necessarily prefer it, but I think that we're very good at it. I think you could go back and look at the whole season, and whenever we're in that fast tempo offense, I don't know if we've even been stopped really, maybe besides the last drive tonight. So it's something that we all like when we go into fast mode, our ears perk up a little bit because we know that, we can do some damage.
Thoughts on Jarrett stepping in for Nick Arbuckle tonight? How do you thought he did in his second CFL start?
Yeah, I think he did really great. I mean, it's not an easy thing, I don't think people realize, that when you're not starting, you don't get any reps during the week, So, and then with this week being a short week, we only practice one time. So that's really tough for a guy who's not really had reps at all with the first team offense to have only one practice going into his first start. And I thought he really competed his ass off. I mean, if anything, I think us receivers let him down tonight. We had a bunch of drops. And that's something you can't do to a guy who's starting in his first games. But besides that, I think he had a really good night. He competed his tail off.
What are your thoughts on the running game? I guess it just wasn't there tonight.
Yeah, it's tough. You always hope to run the ball efficiently because that can really open things up offensively through the passing game. And, it was just one of those nights. We were struggling to run the ball, so we had to find ways to get first downs through the passing game. And, whenever you can't run the ball, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult to score points. So, we definitely felt that effect tonight. But either way, whether we ran the ball good or not, we had a chance to win that game tonight, and we let it slip through our fingers.
Thoughts on the Alouettes? What did they do defensively to kind of stymie you the first 3 quarters?
They got to the quarterback. It don't matter who's back there at quarterback. If they're dealing with pressure, it's difficult to be efficient. So, they were able to get back there, as you were saying. We weren't able to run the ball. So, we were in second and long situations, especially to start that third quarter. And then when we were in those second and longs, we weren't converting. I don't know if we had a first down in the third quarter. So, hats off to them. They played well. But like I said, we had the opportunities to win that game, and we just didn't come up with it. So it's tough.
David, what would you tell Argo fans after this game? And you got 4 games left. What would you tell the fans?
I would tell them to have faith. We have a great room of leaders, and we got guys who are extremely experienced in this league and have dealt with a lot of ups and downs. And, at the end of the day, we got 4 games left, and if we go out and win them all, then we're putting ourselves in a position to make the playoffs. So just have faith and, believe in us because we'll get it done.
When do you guys start preparing for BC?
Tonight.
And finally, where can my audience follow you on social media?
Instagram, David underscore Unger. That's pretty much all the socials I have. So, yep.
All right. Well, David, thank you so much for doing this interview after the game tonight, and good luck next week against BC, and we'll see you back here on October 4th.
Of course. Thank you.
Thanks, David. That was David Unger, courtesy of my YouTube channel, Chris Pomay, live with CDP Talk Show. Please subscribe, share, and like. And I want to say thank you to Chris Belinovich, Manager of Media Communications for the Toronto Argonauts, for the last 4 years, having me cover the team as a media member, besides being a season ticket holder, and going into the locker room and talking to guys like David Unger. And I would like to see guys like him marketed more in Toronto, because, Nick, you know this as well as I do. A lot of these guys are talented football players, but they have interesting stories to share, and it would be nice to see MLSE or Rogers cross-market him with the other teams in the city. And David is one of the good guys, and he only had 2 catches for 26 yards last night, but he also had a nice, 44-yard kickoff return. And what I like about him, he reminds me of former NFL players Wes Walker and Julian Edelman. He might not be the fastest guy or the flashiest guy, but this guy works his butt off. He's in great shape, and he's a team player, and he can do many things with his team, Nick. as you mentioned to me before.
Not the biggest guy or physically strongest guy, you could argue, on the field, but definitely at the biggest heart. That puts you in a pretty good room if you're going to compare yourself to Michael Pinball Clemens. Yeah, guy's got a ton of heart, and you can tell he wears it on his sleeve through that interview. Very well spoken. I really enjoy listening to David Unger. I wish him a happy belated birthday, as it was there the previous Tuesday of this week. But yeah, I think he words it quite well, and they're in the right mindset. They just gotta reset and focus on the next week. And it's a tough business in football because you can't find excuses. You can't blame the play calling, you can't blame the officiating, you can't blame the quarterback, you can't blame yourselves, the wide receivers. You just gotta focus, work on the new game plan for next week, and be better. And it starts coming out this week against BC. And one other thing I will add, just in terms of like spokesmanship, Purelator did announce in partnership with the CFL that they are planning a new ambassadorship program to get players from the teams to better improve the Purelator Tackle Hunger and CFL program, make it stronger, which I think is something that is really well needed, considering the biggest heart, the biggest spokesperson that Purelator ever had, Chris Schultz. Of course, lost his life a few years ago and was, as we saw, just this season, was inducted into the Toronto Argonauts all-time Argos list as a player. So I think it's great that they're moving to this initiative to make it stronger and reinforce it. They've made over 25 million pounds of food donated since the program began in 2003. And just this past year alone was, I think, just short of 2.5 million pounds of food. So if there's one avenue potential that they could use to really use the players' abilities to market, he's a good example of that. David Unger, Anthony Lanier is another good example of guys who give back immensely to the community, who sometimes goes unnoticed. So there's definitely a lot of opportunities that they can work together with the CFL, with Purelator, and other initiatives that the league does to really help grow the marketability of the players.
I want to do a quick shout out to one of the Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment executives, Nick Eves, used to be the CEO of the company I work for. So it was nice to reconnect with Nick and on the sidelines before the game, and it was great to see him. And I ran into him at the Marlies game last year as well. So I just want to give a shout out to Nick Eves. He's one of the good guys, and it was nice to see him as well. And hopefully they can continue to have the Overdrive and TSN do a little more coverage of the Toronto Argonauts. I know they've had a number of players and coaches on TSN 1050, so it would be nice to see more attention to these guys, because they're not just great football players, they're good human beings, and they have great stories to share. And I'd like to see the team get marketed more. And I really enjoy like interviewing these guys. They're really good to talk to. And Nick, sometimes, hey, I know a lot of broadcasters that refuse to interview athletes when they lose, and obviously it's much easier to interview a coach, or a player when they win. But with the Toronto Argonauts specifically, and even the Hamilton Tiger Cats, I can say this too, when you lose a game, I know it's much difficult, but the guys are always accommodated. I've never been turned down for an interview in the Argos locker room, and the guys are great about it, because I understand when you lose, you don't really want to talk, but these guys are really good with the media, and I'd like to see them get a little more attention around the city of Toronto. Nick, got to ask you specifically on the defense too. Who really stood out for you on the Argos defense last night? Because I really thought overall, I thought they played probably one of their better games this year defensively, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I will jump ahead before that and say, like, to your point about the media coverage. Well, if the Bills, one of the positive things is if the Bills coverage and that attention keeps working, we're going to see Overdrive do more games here covering the CFL. We're going to have it brought up more than just a 5-minute segment. It's like, hey, coach, how's it going? Is your team ready to go today? Cool. Okay, great. Thanks. Have good luck. They're going to actually put more effort into doing more to cover the team, and it's going to be more prevalent through the radio. How many times do you go on like 680 News and it's like, oh, the Argos played today, that they won, they lost, whatever. Oh, but by the way, the Jays had this game, that so and so had this many hits, so and so pitched for this many innings, so and so did this, so and so did that. That you don't see that in the CFL games. Whereas if it gets more attention and through this partnership it explodes, you're going to have more opportunities where people are going to be vested in. They're not just going to know, oh, did the Argos win and lose? They're going to want to know, how many yards did Nick Arbuckle or Chad Kelly or Jarrett Diggy throw? How many yards did David Unger have for receiving? So there's all that positivity that can come out of it. And then, yeah, talking about the game itself defensively, that was definitely the strongest point that they had. They were chasing McLeod, Bethel, Thompson the entire game on the D line, and they got a number of sacks on him. It was really, really great to see. I think I brought it up here. Derek Parrish had 2, Lanier had 1, Brandon Dozier had 1, who was a really great addition that they got from Hamilton. Oh, maybe it was Hamilton. It was either Hamilton or Saskatchewan, but they picked him up midway through the year. Dozier led the team with 7 tackles tonight. And of course, Winnie McManus had that huge interception off that one deflected ball, as did Tavares McFadden off that one where he just barely kept his foot in bounds, and as did Derek Sluka on that one that I have no idea what the heck McLeod Bethel Thompson was doing making that throw to begin with. So it was phenomenal, and the defense did everything they could to try to keep them in that game. And when you have an offense that couldn't get more than 100 yards passing in the first half, that couldn't get a touchdown when they were starting at the ball in Montreal's 40-yard line, like the offense, and I'm not trying to beat up on anyone on the offense, but to not be able to capitalize on the opportunities early, they really should have been leading the game by more, but the defense kept them in a good position for the majority of the game, and that's what led to them having this opportunity to win. I argue that it never comes down to just, oh, the missed pass interference call that got missed on the final play of the game, or that you disagree with the call. That was the correct call, by the way, on the onside kick that got tipped out of bounds by the Montreal player because he touched it last, or the Mackay Polk incomplete pass because the ball hit the ground even though his feet were in bounds. He didn't have full possession of the ball and it clearly landed on the ground. Like that stuff, that doesn't matter in the sense that it comes down to your strategy and your play over those 4 quarters. You can't let 1 or 2 plays like that, especially on a questionable call or non-call. You can't let that determine the outcome of the game. There were so many times in this game, especially in the first half, that Toronto could have really put the dagger in and twisted it and ran away with it, but they didn't. And that's what it came down to.
You got to credit the Montreal Alouettes too. They have a really good defense, and Wesley Sutton made a great play at the end of the game, that interception. And yeah, like I said, and I know fans are like, "Oh, Liam missed a 52-yard kick." I'm like, try hitting a 52-yard kick at BMO Field, and there's a little bit of a breeze, and Liam's told me this too. BMO Field is probably the hardest stadium in the CFL to kick field goals in because of being off of Lake Ontario. So I'm not making excuses. 52 yards is not an easy kick by any means, and nobody's perfect. They just fell short from 1 or 2 plays, and unfortunately, that interception at the end of the day. Wesley Sutton is a veteran, and he made a great play, and you got to give the Alouettes credit. They're a good football club.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it before on this show. Noel Thorpe is probably the best defensive coordinator in the league. I'll bring this up right now. If anybody's listening, John Murphy, hook me up. I'll come down to practice next time down to practice. I'll bring my cleats. I'll try a 50-yard field goal just for laughs. If anybody's listening on the team, not to put any pressure on me, just to say I got the chance to do it. And prove how hard it is. Because I believe it. Liram Haralahu is amazing at what he does, and give credit to John Haggerty and Adam Guillemette and Simon Chavez and Alfredo Gachus Lozada for all the work they do. They put in more time than anybody else on the field that I see. And it's such a precise art to be able to make all those kicks. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for them and what they're able to do. But yeah, funny enough, like that last play of the game though, that's the one everybody seems to argue over because of the fact that, with the way it was, the way that I think it was Mackay Polk, who was the intended target, he got twisted there. Everybody was clamoring that there should have been at least a look for pass interference on that. And like it's part of the challenge of the game right now that Dinwiddie had used that timeout. And even though the scoreboard said he only used one and has another, you only get one remaining in the last 3 minutes of the game, and he had used the timeout, so he couldn't have challenged it even if he wanted to. And so like you're pleading with the ref or the command center, the review center, whatever you want to call it, replay center, to get an opportunity to look at it, but they decided not to look at it, which is a tough break. And that's kind of what the way this game went all the way for the Argos. And I get why other fans are frustrated, because yeah, it was a tough break on the onside kick. It was a tough break on the incomplete pass. It was a tough break on the second pass interference that got overturned from a challenge. Like it's just a lot of breaks that I think were the right calls. And the one I disagree with, if I had to disagree with anyone, was probably the call at the end of the game. But at the end of the day, you didn't have a challenge to be able to argue it. And the league's not in a position where they're going to say, oh, well, you didn't have a challenge, but we're going to be nice and look at it anyways. They just don't do that.
The CFL needs to address that next year. And also, teams have to make sure when they use a challenge, especially in the first half of the game, it's for a darn good reason. But I really feel the CFL next year needs to really address that. And a play like that can decide a game, they should have looked at it in the command center.
Well, that's the thing. The Alouettes used their challenge twice, and they won both times. And then when he didn't use his challenge, he saved it. He used the timeout to get time at the end of the game, and then he didn't have a challenge left to be able to overturn it. So it's like you can't make that argument, because the Argos did everything right. Dinwiddie did everything absolutely perfect, and it's so difficult because you're making all those decisions at the edge of your seat. If he throws the challenge on a play in the first quarter, if the Alouettes coach did, then he has no challenge for the rest of the game if it goes the other way. So and Dinwiddie didn't do that. He saved that challenge, and instead they had to use the timeout because they needed that time at the end of the game, and it was absolutely the right thing until it led to that interception and the DPI didn't get called, whether or not it was justified or not.
We got to talk about this too, Nick, because this was a big deciding factor in this game too. Thoughts on the O-line in this game and the running game that only had 12 carries for 25 yards against the Alouettes? They've played, 14 games this year? They've had maybe 2 games where they've had some kind of a semblance of a running game, and they've got 4 games left in the regular season. They have to try to get some kind of running game going, because you can't expect your quarterback to throw 40, 50, 60 passes. You have to take some of that pressure off of them, because teams are just going to okay, the Argos have no running game. Okay, we're just going to keep going after the quarterback and pressuring them. So what are your thoughts on the O-line last night overall and the running game having their struggles? 25 yards, that's like 2 yards a carry.
Well, again, I said Noel Thorpe. It wasn't just because of the running game. They went to the pass, and they still sent 6 guys in. They had 4 linemen. They had 2 linebackers. They sent the corner in. They dropped the 2 linebackers back. They dropped the tackle back. And so they're sending attacks from different angles. That's what Noel Thorpe does so well, better than any other defensive coordinator in football. He makes offensive lines look stupid because they don't know who to pick up. They connect the 2 guys, the tackle's coming in on the middle, and then all out of nowhere, there's a linebacker or a corner coming in through the open gap that you leave open. Nobody picks them up, and it leads to this pressure. It leads to a sack. It leads to only 12 carries for 25 yards on offense. I don't think it has anything to do with simply just because of the blocking. It has a lot of credit to the defensive schemes that Montreal's defense runs that puts an incredible amount of pressure. And we saw it across all 3 games against Montreal this year. It didn't matter whether it was Daggy. It didn't matter whether it was Arbuckle. It wouldn't matter if it was Chad Kelly. If you can't get the ball off in that first half second you get the ball, there's just absolutely no hope if you can't pick up the 6 rushers that come in. And Toronto was never able to pick that up in this game, and they haven't been through the entire series against Montreal.
I know Montreal's only 7-7 this year, but I feel they are a Grey Cup contender out of the East. What do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, especially because this is a team that, for whatever reason, gets fired up more against Toronto than any other team. It's like they
Edmonton.
want to. It's like where Hamilton says that they're our biggest rivals and we're in their heads. Montreal actually lives it and actually plays big. Hamilton, it's 50-50. They sometimes play really good against us. They sometimes play terrible against us. Montreal always plays a big game against us, and I don't know if it's because of like the French connection, if it's because they feel separated, they feel bad that they're stuck in the dregs with Ottawa for so long, and that it's like they don't want to be lumped in with them, but they always play us really well compared to anybody else. So, but as we saw like 2 years ago, Montreal was the team that won the Grey Cup against Winnipeg in a game nobody had Montreal picked.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
They're a way better team than anybody thinks, especially on defense.
I hear from Tiger Cat fans, not naming names, but we're 8-5, we're the best team in the East, and I'm like, best team in the East in the regular season, best record doesn't always translate into playoff success. And I just like the way Montreal is playing right now. They get good, competent quarterback, and the East final will be in Hamilton. I feel Montreal, with the quarterback play and the way their defense is playing, can win anywhere in the playoffs. So I really feel Hamilton better watch out for Montreal in the playoffs, especially in my opinion. And beating the Argonauts 3 times, that's a pretty good accomplishment as well. So
Corey Mace learned to watch out against Montreal as well.
Yep. Oh, by the way, I want to do a shout out here for people out here that want to get an Argo season ticket next year, even though they're going to lose a couple of games to Saskatchewan and Winnipeg and even Hamilton, unfortunately. For 2026 Toronto Argonauts season tickets, you can contact the Toronto Argonauts account coordinator, Jada Christian, at 416-815-6139, or you can email her, Jada.Christian at MLSE.com, and she's been a big help to me this year as well. So if you're looking for Argo season tickets next year, Jada Christian at 416-815-6139, or again, Jada.Christian at MLSE.com. Nick, thoughts?
Yep. Get your tickets, like we talked about with the Bills partnership. Tickets are gonna be a bit harder to come by, and there's not as many games this year as you mentioned. So I don't know if these will include flights to Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. Probably not. And it could be a very long road trip if you're going to be if things go how I predicted. It's probably going to be a month where they're playing back to back in Winnipeg and then Saskatchewan, or vice versa. So it could be a very, very trying time for Argos fans in that month. You're going to have nothing to watch because I know that the FIFA World Cup is not going to be worth watching.
Oh, by the way, Nick, I get an update from Hamilton. Edmonton has just taken a 24-20 lead with 8:48 left in the third quarter, and former Toronto Argonaut, and his birthday is today too. Happy birthday to Curly Gittins Jr., the former Toronto Argonaut, who just got a touchdown pass from Cody Fajardo. And the Elks now lead 24-20, almost halfway through the third quarter at Hamilton Stadium.
While we're on the point of birthdays, I'm also gonna wish a happy birthday out to the big number 48, the heart and soul of the Toronto Argonauts defense. Happy birthday to you as well, Mr. Winnie McManus.
How much does he mean to this defense in terms of his leadership?
Does Mr. Heart and Soul not define it enough?
Yep, 100%. And yeah, he's been an impact, and his interception yesterday. I can't remember who tipped the pass, but McManus made a nice grab on that ball.
Yeah, I think it was either Lanier or Chatfield. I think it was one of the two corners. I think Lanier, but I don't want to quote it in stone.
All right, Nick, as we wrap up this show in the next few minutes, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Do you feel this team is capable of winning their last 4 games to make the playoffs as a crossover to the West?
I still gotta believe, man. You gotta keep the faith in them, and the adversity that this team has faced over the last several years, with everything else going on with what next year has in store. Like for me, I might just be speaking as one person as a diehard fan, but like the Argonauts are my be all end all, my bread and butter, the thing I live every day for. There's no team I will support through hell and high water more than the double blue, and no change from whatever this MLSC Buffalo Bills partnership is ever going to change that. So yeah, I got to keep the faith. The way I see them in practice, I'm really fortunate and thankful that I have the opportunity to see them at least once a week in practice. I get to talk to coaches, to talk to players, to thank them for everything that they do. The fact that they joke with me at practice now, they say I look like Chad Kelly, which is quite a big honor. So to deal with jokes like that and have to just enjoy experiencing the Argos from a different perspective, and to know that they appreciate us as fans, I'm always going to pull for them, and I always will have the belief that they'll be able to win in trying times, and we have done it. 2022 is a great example of that. And 2017 is another good one. Like, you just got to believe. So I definitely think that the Argos still have a possibility to make the playoffs against the West crossover.
Well, the last two times they've gone 9-9, they've won the Grey Cup in 2012 and 2017, and both of those years, I did not think they're going to win the Grey Cup. So, if they can get the first one out of the way, I like their chances. But BC on the road at home, and BC, by the way, was embarrassed by the Argos in Toronto. When was that? End of July, August, 52 to 34. So
they
I
also
think the
beat
BC
them
go.
pretty handily in
Go ahead, Nick.
BC. They also beat them
Well, I
handily
know,
in
but
BC last year.
I know, but BC's I think going to be really motivated. And the thing with the BC Lions, they're capable of beating the best teams in the league, but they've also played down to some of these teams too. So we'll see which team shows up. BC 7-7. Obviously, they want to get a home playoff game, and Toronto is fighting for their playoff life. Nick, nobody asked Dimwitty yesterday in the media press conference. They should have, but I don't know how you can even answer this question. What is the status of Kelly and Arbuckle heading to BC next Saturday night? I don't think you'll see Kelly back this year, in my opinion. Is there any chance Nick Arbuckle could be ready by next Saturday night against BC?
I don't expect Arbuckle to be ready. His calf injury was at least a 2 to 4 week, and this would be
Okay.
the second week. So I don't think there's a chance. So, I think if anything, it's way more likely Kelly could play than Jared Dagey. So, but yeah, it's I know as much as you do, so it's kind of up in the air as to what could actually happen going forward. In terms of the games coming up this week, or coming up, the one that worries me the most is Calgary more than anything, because we never play well in Calgary. So
it's not. It's going to be a hard road for this team. This might be their hardest road to the Grey Cup, obviously in Dimwitty's 5 years, Toronto. But the nice thing is, I've not heard anybody say, "Hey, let's get rid of Ryan Dimwitty." Everybody knows how good a coach he is, and it's just been a difficult year. And you're right, Nick. Also, without their starting quarterback and having to use a journeyman, I'm going to say, well, I shouldn't say journeyman, but having to use a veteran quarterback most of the year, and not having a running game at all, and then having so many roster changes on that defensive side of the ball, it's not been an easy year for this Argonaut team. So, what are some keys for an Argos win next week in BC on the road?
I think they're going to have to just play better offensively. They cannot go with 200 yards and like 100 yards passing and 9 points at halftime. Because even if the defense plays the way they did this week against Montreal, I don't think they're going to be able to hold BC to 20 points like they did to Montreal this week. That is what, 21-19. I don't think they're holding BC to under 21 points unless Rourke has a really bad game and throws more interceptions than MBT did. So you're 19 points is not going to be enough. You're going to have to find ways to get some production down on offense. And like I said earlier in the show, if you're starting on BC's 40-yard line, you can't be satisfied with 3 points. You got to find a way to get a touchdown out of it. There's just no other way you're going to be able to beat them.
For me, Nick, number one, they have to get a strong start in the first quarter. They can't fall behind. Number two, the time of possession. They need to try to keep Nathan Rourke and that Lions offense off the field, and also turnovers. They're going to need one or two turnovers, big plays by their defense in this game. And the third key is going to be special teams. Jarian Grant has not returned one to the house recently. He's come close a couple times, but I think they're going to need a big special teams play by Jarian Grant to have a chance against BC. Toronto will obviously be the underdogs in this game, but I just think if they can get a strong start, kind of dominate the time of possession and capitalize on turnovers if they can get some. And I think they're going to need a big special teams play either by David Unger or Grant and get 6 or 7 points right there from their special teams.
They're gonna need more than just 3 turnovers. If the Montreal game was any indication, they had 3 in the first half and they only led 9-7.
They didn't capitalize. If they could have just scored 1 touchdown out of those 3 turnovers, it might have been a different result last night.
Yep. Well, like I said, they didn't twist the dagger early enough.
All right, Nick, we're going to do our normal CFL power rankings for week 16. These are mine, and I don't know if you'll agree with me. I still got Saskatchewan 1, Hamilton 2, which pains me to say. Number 3, Calgary, even though they got killed last night, 52-23, I think, at home. Number 4, I'm putting the Alouettes number 4, BC 5, Winnipeg 6, Toronto drops to 7, Edmonton 8, and Ottawa 9.
Yeah, I'd probably move Montreal up above Calgary. I think Montreal's starting to get hot again at the right time. So I'd probably have Montreal at 3 and Calgary at 4. I'm tempted to flip them with Calgary with BC even, but I think I'll keep them at that. Winnipeg 1, sure. So I agree with keeping them above Toronto, but I mean, the win against Ottawa, like they're probably the only team on planet Earth that could let an opposing offense score less than 100 points, less than 50 points in a game, 50 passing yardage, and still lose to them. So I think it's pretty fair leaving Ottawa at the bottom, as much as I hate to say it. We'll see how Edmonton does, though, if they win this game against Hamilton. If Edmonton beats Hamilton, maybe they should jump Toronto. We'll see.
We're at now Edmonton 24, Hamilton 23 in the third quarter, 4:22. Mark Leggio got a field goal for the Cats. By the way, Bo Mitchell tonight, 17 for 23, 212 passing, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Last week, he tied Tom Clements for 11th all time with 252 touchdown passes. Well, tonight he moves to number 10 with 254. So congratulations to Bo Levi Mitchell, a future first ballot Canadian Football Hall of Fame quarterback who's been outstanding this year, Nick. And by the way, this is the first time since 2017 and 18 that Bo Levi Mitchell has started in 21 straight games. So keeping him healthy gives the Cats a chance in the playoffs specifically as well, if he can stay healthy.
If he can stay healthy, that's the big question.
And he has the last year and a half, and you brought this up too with Chad Kelly. Let's say they do bring him back. You can't expect him to come back and play at an MOP level, missing 24 games the last year and a half. And I think from my gut feeling right now, my gut feeling is Jarrett's going to start next Saturday in BC.
Yeah, well, I have seen him in practice throw, and from what I can tell you, seeing him in practice, his arm isn't the problem, and I can flip that argument well in his head. If something ever did happen to Bo Levi Mitchell, what does Hamilton do? Because I'm not sure if who is it? Is it Powell or
yes?
Powell.
Powell.
I'm not sure if he's it based on how last year went, so we'll have to see what happens.
That Hamilton-Edmonton game is probably going to come down to who has the ball last.
Probably. This would be, I think, the third time in Hamilton between the Argo game there and the Red-Black game there and maybe one other game this year. It's come down to that. So Hamilton likes close games. Not good for anyone's heart, I'll tell you that.
Hamilton has done a good job on Edmonton's running game tonight. Rankin 7 carries for 36 yards, Leak 3 for 2 yards, Fajardo 2 for 16. Hamilton tonight, Greg Bell, who I think is an X factor on this Hamilton offense. 13 carries for 80 yards. So that takes a little pressure off Bo Levi Mitchell. And Hamilton, Greg Bell, to me, is important to that offense because if he can keep doing what he's doing, they're going to be harder to stop in the playoffs. And you're going to need that running game in the playoffs, especially if you're going to go against Montreal at some point in the playoffs, too.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Nick. Final thoughts on this week's games around the CFL.
Yeah, if we just want to throw the preemptive picks in, it's going to be really difficult because we're already jumping to next week. Yeah, I look at the very first one and it's like Calgary on a skid, Montreal on the upswing at home, Toronto and BC, Hamilton and Winnipeg, and Saskatchewan, Edmonton. I'm going to go Montreal over Calgary at home, Toronto over BC on the road, Hamilton over Winnipeg, and Saskatchewan over Edmonton.
I agree with you on the Montreal one on September 26th, 7 o'clock. I got Montreal over Calgary on September 26th at 10 p.m. BC and Toronto, which is, I believe, next Friday night, I believe.
Yeah,
I think it's next Friday night. I'm sorry, I've got to go with the BC Lions, but the Argos are capable of winning that game. So I'm going to go with BC, but I wouldn't be shocked if Toronto won. Hamilton at Winnipeg. I'm going to go with the Blue Bombers at home. I'm going to go with Winnipeg. I have a gut feeling they're going to win that game. And then Saskatchewan and Edmonton. I think Saskatchewan is going to take care of business in Edmonton next Saturday at 7 o'clock.
Yep, I hope Winnipeg, I hope Strevler throws for more than 50 yards.
You know what? It doesn't matter how many yards you throw. It's a matter of winning. I'd rather win with 50 yards than lose with throwing 450 yards.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line.
I don't think Hamilton's going to give up the mistakes that Ottawa does. Like, there's a reason why Ottawa's last in the league and Hamilton's not.
But Winnipeg is at home, and Mike O'Shea, you can't count him out. And the Bombers are still fighting for their playoff life. So I just think Winnipeg's going to get a little bit of revenge on Hamilton in Winnipeg next week as well. And Nick, as we wrap up our show again, final thoughts.
Go Argos. Focus on this week. Focus on BC. If you want to follow me on social media, Nick Small 38 is always the way to go.
And I guess, the next Argos home game won't be until Saturday, October 4th, 3 p.m. against the Hamilton Tiger Cats on TSN and CTV, and it will be Bills Day at the game. Have they announced yet, the team? Have they announced how many T-shirts they're giving away for this Bills Day game at BMO?
I don't know for certain. I think I thought Keith Pelly said 7,000, but I don't want to be quoted on that. At least that's what I thought I heard in the interview. At the end of the day, it's going to be the last regular season home game for the Argos. And yeah, if things go the way they are right now, we'll probably be on the road for both if we qualify. So you better make it out if you like watching Argos football, because it's a long drive to Hamilton or Montreal for the playoff games. So until then, go Argos.
By the way, Nick, October 4th will probably be their last home game of the year, and they won't have another home game until July 2026 or August 2026 possibly?
Yeah, depending on how the preseason goes in Guelph, if you count that.
So get your tickets at argonauts.ca, and a shout out to Mike Hogan and Ben Grant, who I chatted with yesterday at BMO Field. They do a really good job on the pregame show, which is at 6:30 normally for 7 o'clock game. So you can catch Hogan and Ben Grant on, I believe, next Friday, September 26th. I believe the pregame will be at 9:30. Kickoff will be just after 10 at TSN. And a shout out to Matthew Shinati, who never takes a day off between soccer coverage and the CFL. Matthew Shinati, one of the nicest guys in the industry. He is a hard worker, and he really loves the CFL as much as anybody else.
Yes, sir. I had the opportunity of chatting to him in Hamilton after our Labor Day walk. Amazing dude. Glad we got the chance to talk to him.
All right, Nick, I want to say thank you so much for coming on episode 12 of the Argo Bounce podcast show with Nick Small and myself here on this Saturday, September 20th, 2025. And I hope everybody enjoys the rest of the Edmonton Hamilton game and the NFL, of course, tomorrow. I have to do a little cheap plug as well. Mike Hogan is a Philadelphia Eagles fan like I am. Eagles Rams tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So this is, to me, the best time of the year for sports with the CFL, the NFL, college football in Canada, and the U.S. Nick, do you have anything about the OUA before we wrap this up?
I was gonna say shout out to my Laurier Golden Hawks, managed to pull off a huge win against the Ottawa GGs. They had the ball on Laurier's gold line at the end of the game and down 6. So scoring a touchdown would tie the game, and they would have an extra point to win. Laurier stopped them at the goal line all 3 times. It's for the NFL. Anybody out here, if we're going by Keith Pelly MLSA logic, nobody has to watch any of the games on Sunday because the Bills already won against the Dolphins on Thursday night. So that's I will leave that jab at Chris, the Eagles fan. The remark for tonight. As always, a pleasure to be here. Pleasure chatting with you. Go Argos. You know me, I don't really care about the NFL, so I don't care who wins and who loses in that. So take care, everybody. Go Argos, and have a great night.
All right, Nick, we'll see you next week some point for episode 13 of the Argo Bounce podcast show. Have a great weekend, Nick, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
See ya.
All right, everyone, that wraps up season 4, episode 12 of the Argo Bounce podcast show, a weekly independent talk show devoted to the CFL Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts, and talking a little bit about news around the Canadian Football League as well. Before we wrap up this show, guys, the latest update from Hamilton. It is currently Edmonton 24, Hamilton 23. Late in the third quarter with 1:26 left, and the difference in this game is a Cody Fajardo touchdown pass to the former Toronto Argonaut wide receiver, Laurier alumni, Curly Gittens Jr. So 24-23. That game is on TSN right now, or you can listen to it on the Tiger Cats audio network with Rick Zamperin and Simone Lawrence as well. And again, next week, we've got a whole bunch of CFL games going on in week 17. Calgary and Montreal Friday night at 7 o'clock, and then a doubleheader Friday night at 10 p.m. Toronto, BC. Saturday, Hamilton at Winnipeg at 3 p.m. And next Saturday night, Saskatchewan and Edmonton at 7 o'clock. So this is a great time of the year if you're a CFL fan, NFL fan, U.S. and Canadian college football fan as well. And before we wrap up this show, if anyone is out there looking to advertise your business on the Argo Bounce podcast show, please DM me on my social media pages or at cpomay19@gmail.com, or contact Nick Small. We're looking for advertisers to come aboard the Argo Bounce podcast show and go from there. Looking forward to the next week's show, and me and Nick will preview a little more of the Argos matchup with the BC Lions, and then talk a little more about the Argos' next home game, and probably most likely their final home game of the 2025 season when they take on Bo Levi Mitchell and the Hamilton Tiger Cats on Saturday, October 4th at 3 p.m. Again, you can get tickets at argonauts.ca, and if you're looking for season tickets for next year, I will put the ticker here. You can contact Argonauts account coordinator Jader Christian again at 416-815-6139, or you can email her Jada.Christian at MLSE.com. And my next live with CDP talk show is going to be on Monday, September 22nd at 12 p.m. Eastern with my special guest, Taylor Allen. He's a sports reporter with the Winnipeg Free Press. So we're going to talk about the Blue Bombers 26-18 win at Ottawa today, and the 2025 Blue Bombers team that's 7-7, and talk a little bit to Taylor about his career in media and as a sports reporter for the Winnipeg Free Press as well. So please check out the next live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show this Monday, September 22nd, 12 p.m. Eastern. And like Nick said before he ended up, or as would Nick would say at the end of every show, go Argos, and we'll see you next week for another edition of the Argo Bounce Podcast Show with Chris Pomay, Nick Small, which is available on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, X, Instagram, and on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Good Pods, wherever podcasts are available. Please make sure you subscribe, share, and like. And thank you, everyone, for watching and listening to the Argo Bounce Podcast Show, again with Nick Small and Chris Pomay. Have a great night, everybody. Enjoy the CFL, the NFL, college football, and we'll be back next week for episode 13 of the Argo Bounce Podcast Show. Good night, everybody. Go Argos and go Eagles.
Fight the foe, 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 scoring touchdowns for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full of fight and courage, you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the